Welcome to a new video. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe for more. Also, please leave a like if you enjoyed it. The first story is called Can't Get a Refund? I own an escape room company in a town that borders a pretty touristy area and is very close to an airport. As such, we tend to get a lot of bookings from people all over the United Kingdom who are visiting the area for the weekend, or international people coming to do an escape room on the way to the airport. We only take online bookings and don't take walk-ins, therefore the site is only really manned whenever we have bookings. As such, our cancellation policy is that we only allow refunds if the cancellation is more than 24 hours before the scheduled start time. If it is less than 24 hours before the start time, we can only reschedule the booking. Now, it's worth mentioning that for the majority of cases on weekdays, we are pretty relaxed with our policy as long as it doesn't cause any big issues, and try our best to accommodate a group, as usually I am the one hosting them, so there are not any additional expenses on our part. However, the only day where this policy is really relevant is on Saturday, where we are almost always entirely booked from morning to night and have staff members working for us. So any cancelled slots would most likely have been filled by other customers, and we are of course still paying our staff for that time. Although I must say, we have only ever had to enforce this policy a couple of times, as we usually accommodate a group in some shape or form. So, I get a call earlier today from a gentleman with a thick Scottish accent that was scheduled to come in with his group in around 2.5 hours from the time of the call. The group said that they would be unable to make their booking as they were running late with some other activities or something like that, and asked to reschedule the booking for a later slot. I checked our schedule but didn't have any slots left for today in any of our rooms. He then asked for a refund, as they would be returning back to Glasgow tonight and didn't know when they would be next down here. I told him our policy and that our system only allows reschedules instead of refunds due to the time frame, and explained that given it's a Saturday, we can't refund so close to the time as the staff has been arranged and the slot would have been booked. Rescheduling wouldn't have worked for them as they wouldn't be in the area anytime soon. After a short pause, he asked if we had any free slots to schedule for next month. I checked the system and offered to move the booking to the same time 1 month later, to which he said, "I think that works." I changed the time on the system and informed him he would get an email confirming the new time slot. He replied, "Great, so the booking is more than 24 hours away now, right?" "Yes, it's booked in for 4 weeks' time from today." "The booking is more than 24 hours away, I won't be able to make it. Can I have a refund?" I paused for a second, trying to process what had just happened in my head, and realized that he had found a loophole in the system. Technically, his booking was more than 24 hours away, so he is technically entitled to a refund. I started laughing and congratulated him on beating the system as I processed his refund. The next story is called Whatever You Say. Many years ago, I worked as a gas station clerk. I don't care who calls it a convenience store, it's a gas station. My boss at the time was mostly a chilled dude. However, he had moments of being a stickler for rules. One week, we may be as relaxed, and then one day, we would pop up a new trivial rule he read online for efficiency or boosted morale. This week, he had read an article about following state liquor laws to the letter, and that we now had to follow them as such. So for the next several hours, I carded every single alcohol sale and denied dozens of sales over expired ID cards. Several regulars were getting frustrated that their Friday afternoon beer runs had been stopped. He came up to the register from his little cave in the wall looking mad. "Why has there been 8 people complaining that you won't sell them anything?" He had his stern face on. "You said to follow the rules, so I did." I tried to sound innocent and holding back a chuckle. "Well, you know what I meant. Go work on something else. The beer needs to be rung. Go do that until I find something else for you to do." You see, my boss only stayed on site until about 6:30. It was about 10 minutes before 6. I decided to do exactly what I was told and began to ring the beer. In case you are wondering, this gas station opted to ring all beer on site. The boss said it was cheaper to buy 200 feet of rings than it was to order factory-made 6-packs. I walked over to the wall of beer and grabbed a case and started. Then another, and another. I had rung nearly 75 6-packs before he walked out the door to go home. It didn't stop there. I cracked open every single box of beer we had. In total, I counted nearly 300 6-packs of beer. Customers came in and asked where the cases were, and I said I had to ring them. Eventually, the shift ended and I went home. The next day, I get a call from my boss. "What did you do?" He was livid. "Exactly what you said. I rang beer until you told me to do something else. I went back to your office to ask if you had anything else to do, but you went home. The third story is called, Just Get the Sauce. This happened at the turn of the century. I was 17 and worked as a silver service waiter in the corporate boxes at a stadium for a Premier League football team, who have a reputation for having mostly out-of-town fans. As a silver service waiter, your job was to make sure the box was clean for whoever was using it that day and make sure the fridges were stocked with refreshments, serve dinner after the game and make tea and coffee during the game. When you weren't required, you stood outside the box until the attention light outside the door lit up. I wasn't very good at my job, I frequently forgot things. But I was good at talking with the customers, which usually helped me through. One day, I was working on a box owned by a major refuse collection company, and the occupants that day were 4 of their high-level management from Scotland. 3 of them were nice enough blokes, but one was definitely the jerk of the group. I let slip that I supported an opposing team, and he jokingly derided me about it until it was so unfunny I just started ignoring him, and whilst everyone else would help themselves to beers and tea, he'd demand that I did it. After the match, it was time to serve dinner. I dished everything out and went to get the gravy, but because I was so slow, there was none left. When I went back to tell the box, they were all fine with it except Jerk. This is ridiculous. Go and get me some sauce. I'll see what I can do, but they're definitely out of gravy. Just get the sauce. I went into the kitchen and asked the chef dutifully for some sauce. He looked confused and told me they were out of gravy. He doesn't want gravy, he wants some sauce. The chef poured me a ladle of the sauce into a gravy boat and handed it to me. Are they having dessert already? No. I left the kitchen, re-entered my box and put the gravy boat in front of the jerk. I managed to get you some sauce. Then I left and waited. 30 seconds later, I hear a loud expletive and see that the attention light is lit. I walk in to find him red-faced. This is chocolate. Yes, for the desert. You didn't put it on your dinner, did you? He had. Get me another one. At this stage, there were no dinners left as the staff had eaten them all, so he had to make do with a sandwich whilst his friends laughed at him. I can't remember whether he had dessert or not. The next story is called, Asked to Do It a Certain Way. This was a few years ago when I was an apprentice at a school in the United Kingdom. I hated it. The actual apprenticeship learning was fine. But the job was IT support, which actually meant that they had me photocopying for a year. But I wanted the qualification. We had 2 copiers that I noticed were incapable of printing proper booklets. You were supposed to put 2 smaller pages in a bigger slot, fold it, and then it would do the staples in the middle. It's hard to explain properly, but long story short, the copiers would jam. I did, however, find a different way. I would put them on smaller pages and then the staples would be on the side and it would function as a booklet. Everyone seemed fine with the arrangement. Well, almost everyone. There were 2 people who had an issue. One was a maths teacher who wanted a proper booklet for a test, and one was the financial officer, who was supposed to be my line manager but never helped me. Instead, the most helpful person was the guy who used to do the copying, who had my back on the whole debacle. We'll call him Tom. Anyway, the maths teacher said, I need it like this. It can't be any other way. I told her this would not be possible. Both the financial officer and Tom came over and I and Tom explained the problem. They still insisted that we do it the impossible way. I decided to comply, knowing it wouldn't work, so that I could prove my point. I started it on both copiers to do it faster. Instead of 80 on one, it would be 40 on 2 machines. Both machines ended up jamming. One I could sort out, and when I showed both them that it didn't work, they had to accept it the way I did it. However, one of the machines jammed so badly that we had to get a mechanic out to come and fix the machine. Which not only cost money but put the machine out of action for a day or so. The last story is called, At All Times. This one happened in my old job. I worked in a contact center for a major company, handling both email, live chat and phone queries for support or advice on products. Our supervisor at the time was a bit of a stickler for rules, and with it, few people actually liked them. One of these rules was that there shouldn't be more than a certain amount of calls waiting in the queue. There was a big board in the main room which displayed this information, as well as some other stuff like average call length, transfer rate to a higher level of support and others. Now, some desks had mobile phone headsets. These were basically mobile phones connected to the main system, which also had a tablet type thing with them. You could access most of the main systems on the tablets and take calls in the same way as the wired-in desks. These were mostly used by staff in the offices who were dealing with physical paper records, invoices, letters and the like. One day, the manager was coming down hard on call times as it was only just within tolerance. So he decided to test people by calling and timing them for call pickup times. People got written up for being slow. Skip forward, and a coworker wasn't feeling great. He'd been feeling unwell all day, but he was one of only 2 people in his department on site that day, so he decided to soldier on. Now, at some point, he'd had to go to the toilet, and he knew what this manager was like for people not answering calls and about the test calls. So he took his headset with him as well as the tablet. A call comes through. He recognized the number on the tablet screen as being the manager's mobile, and so answered it. The manager heard every little single thing that happened there. He got dragged into the director's office about this and honestly said that the manager had told him that they must answer any call as quickly as possible. So he did, and there was nothing he'd been told which said this did not include the toilet. The supervisor stepped down a week later. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.